So back then, a lot of young women, such as myself, was running into multiple guys, basically trying to find love through sex, something that we just weren't able to do. And then you had the elders telling us that we need a good man in a church. We need a good guy that we could settle down with from church, and, you know, try to force us to date the church guys. And I gave it an entrance. I said, okay, I'll date a church guy. And matter of fact, he was an older church guy at that. But let's just say everything was not sweet on the other side of that door. And I was just about to experience that. So while my son's father in jail, we wasn't getting along anyway. So I had moved on, and my past best friend had came over, and she was telling me about this preacher that we had met at a funeral, who was out there trying to talk to every girl he seen. And he had a lot of personality, very down to earth, just very expressive, and he was just a cool guy, but nobody really paid him any attention. So my past best friend come over, and she ended up telling me that she went on a date with him. And she was saying when he picked her up, you know, he was drunk and he listened to rap music and just was a very, like I said, down-to-earth guy who just loved to be himself. And we had never seen no one like that. You know, we're in the early 20s, mid 20s, and he's about 40s. So, you know, he's older than us too, and he's just who he is, and we get a kick out of it because we never met anyone like him, a preacher like him before. So this was just, and plus we were childish too. So, over one day asking, will I go on a date with his friend who was also a preacher. And I was like, no, you know, because I didn't like the guy. He wasn't my type. And, you know, she like, please. So I was like, fine. And I ended up actually dating him later. So we would just hang out, be at, you know, my past best friend and the other preacher's house that she dated, because they ended up moving together. So we would be at their house a lot on the weekends. And at the time I was staying with a guy I call my stepfather because of the history him and my mother had in the past. So anyways, I was staying at my stepfather's house at the time too. So when he would come down, the preacher would come down on the weekends, I would go to, you know, my past best friend's house. They were really cool guys as well. They also took good care of me and my past best friend. You know, the one that dated her took her in and helped her out a lot, helped her mature in life as well, where she started to, you know, become more mature. So they were around also when my grandmother had passed away, and they took me shopping to get a dress to wear to her ceremony, and they picked me out this cute all white dress, and they picked out my heels, got my hair done for me. They also preached at my grandmother's memorial, and, you know, brought life into the church. So they were right there by us, supporting us every step of the way. They were very genuine guys, like I said, down to earth. But like always, we all suffer from a dark side that has never been healed within ourselves, and that we are taught to put a band-aid on these unhealed wounds. But at the end of the day, even those who encourages us fight battles in the dark as well. And me and my past best friend was just about to experience that when we both began to experience abuse. First, we start seeing behaviors in the preacher that my past best friend was dating at the time, where he had some of the best concerts. He brought some of the best people. He was just a very creative preacher, and you know, he was a very great guy who just brought a lot of people together and just, you know, impacted a lot of people within the church. So, you know, every concert he had, they would be a pop. Like, he would have some of the best concerts ever, raising a lot of money. And I noticed he would use that money not for the community, but he would use it to kind of get her hair and nails done, or to just whatever he wanted to do with the financial ties that he had gotten in the church. So that made me keep my eye on that as well. And then on top of it, he would say things to my stepfather, such as he was going to pray to lock his bowels up. And that was something he told my stepfather all the time, that he was going to pray to get his bowels locked up. And just, you know, not so respectful acts that he was saying. But my stepfather, he really wouldn't get mad about it or nothing. He'd just brush it off and tell him that he's just gonna bless him out by praying for him. So you know, it wasn't really a big conflict with them, because my stepfather would just walk in the house. But this preacher wouldn't care what he said around people. He didn't care who was around when he would cuss the way that he did, or say, you know, the negative things that he was saying to my stepfather or whoever else he felt the need to say those things to. So we start to see more behaviors. And on top of it, he was also going to house parties that only attended gay guys. So one day I had to go get my past best friend from the, one of the house parties, because only gay guys could join that party. So which led us to keep our eyes on that as well. And we thought maybe because, you know, them being a preacher, they just couldn't be themselves, or party how they want to, and a regular club, you know, just with straight people from the opinions. So we thought maybe, you know, they just party privately, whatever the case may be. And you know, we also start experiencing a lot of aggression in his behavior as well. But to move on, I started to experience a lot of these things with his best friend, the guy that I was dating, who is a preacher as well. There was also a time where we were at a house party that my past best friend and the preacher she was dating had through, where a lot of preachers would come over, or their close ones, and we would just hang out, play cards, cook, eat, drink, and just listen to music, hang around, you know. So to move on, the preacher that I was dating, his son didn't like me because I was pretty young, more of his age, and here his father was you know, mid-age. So he didn't like that, and he would disrespect me. And so one day, me and him had got in an argument, and his dad decided to choose violence on me, where he pushed me into a rocking chair, and I grabbed him by his shirt, and we kind of like flipped over the rocking chair, where I picked up a beer bottle and hit him with it. And that's when the other you know, his friends had to run up, and they grabbed him, and my past best friend had grabbed me, her and the preacher that she was dating. And you know, they took me outside, and they had to separate us that night because he would allow his son to disrespect me, and wouldn't, you know, just kind of tell him that he was being rude. One day, me and my past best friend was going out, and we were hanging at their home, or we were hanging out at her home, and we discussed that we wanted to go out and just hang out since the guys were in the house. And so I asked the guy that I was dating, the preacher that I was dating, could he take me home? And I guess it's like kind of mad that I was going out or whatever the case may be. So as me and her are discussing what we're going to wear out that night, he's looking mean, he's looking mad, he's driving fast. And so I just stopped talking, and I was like, you know, are you okay? Why are you looking mean? What's wrong? And you know, he kind of like just got smart and cussed at me, which led me to get smart with him, and then led like a argument. So as we're arguing, you know, I asked him to pull over, and he pulls over. So as I have the door open, trying to get out the car, he then speeds off and does a U-turn as fast as he could. So I'm trying to hold on to the door to close it, but it flew open, and he ended up going straight down the street that my past best friend and his best friend had lived on. So he's going so fast. I want to give it about 45 miles, I believe, and I can't get the door closed, like the wind is just making it fly open, where he pushed me out the car. And so he was going so fast, he had to come back around and get me. And by the grace of God, you know, I didn't get hurt. I just landed on my arm, and I really didn't break anything or scrape anything, but I could hear my friends screaming, telling him to stop. And like I said, he was going so fast that he had to smash on a brake while turning the wheel, and ended up, you know, going in a full circle before he could stop to turn around to come back and get me. So when he got out the car, of course, I'm mad. I'm triggered at this point. I began to be so upset that I started punching him and telling him to get off of me, because at this time, he's looking at me with guilt, and he just, you know, bear over me and start hugging me, and just wouldn't let me go. And you know, I'm fighting him off of me, telling him to get off of me and to just take me home, because at this point my feelings is hurt. I'm crying, and I'm just so upset. I don't even want to look at him. So me ended up getting in the car. He ended up dropping me off at my apartment that I just moved in. And you know, me and her just kind of hung out that night, because I was pretty ruined at this point. Like, my whole energy was just done for. So I just wanted to stay in. But to move along, there was another experience where at the time I let two girls that I was friends with at the time live with me, and so he would come over. So when he would come over on the weekend, you know, they were just young and silly as well. And, you know, they would just make fun of him or crack little jokes that he wouldn't like. And this time he had brought one of his friends who was a comedian. And, you know, they was just goofing around with the guy, like, you know, we never heard of you, or where do you, you know, perform at, and just make little jokes and making just the fun of the moment. But I guess they were being too silly, and the preacher that I was dating at the time didn't like it, and he got mad at me and pushed me against the wall. I guess just for laughing, or just, you know, enjoying the moment that he didn't like or didn't enjoy at the time. So he gets so mad that he pushes me as hard as he could, and I fly, I mean stumbles into the wall. And I'm so mad at this point, I run towards him and charged at him and started hitting him until, you know, his friend grabbed him, and my friend, or my past friends, grabbed me. And I was pretty ticked about that. But there was the biggest time of my life where things were not okay, and at all, where they were becoming to get more worse than what they were. And there was the last experience that I no longer could tolerate, and decided not to ever see him again. And that was when, and I also want to mention, at the time I dated this preacher, he lived over an hour away. So we lived kind of a long distance from each other. So the last experience where I decided to never date him again or be around him again was when me and my past best friend had went walking, and some guys had stopped us, you know, trying to get our number and just asking our name. And as we were laughing and trying to get away from them to go walking, I happened to look over and notice the preacher's car, and I quit laughing and I tapped my past best friend and I tell her, he's here. He's, you know, the preacher is right there. Oh my God. And at this point, I wasn't talking to him anymore because of his behaviors and his attitude. So when he just out of the blue popped up and knew where I was at and found me outside, that brought a bad vibe. And so me and her began to walk off. I tell her I'm leaving, and she was like, you know, what you doing? I was like, I'm leaving, you know. So I panic and I walk off, and he started to just follow us down the street driving slow, telling me to get in a car, and I'm telling him no. And you know, my past best friend like, let's just get in a car, and I'm like, no, you know, I'm not dealing with him anymore. And so I kept walking, and we were walking together. So anyways, we get about 2 blocks over, and we stop in front of a church where he started doing donuts in a circle. And I just instantly tell her, I'm about to run. And I took off running. And as I took off running as fast as I could down the street while he's doing donuts, burning circles, she like, wait, come back. And I'm like, no, and I'm just running. And so he ended up chasing me down the street. So I'm on the sidewalk and he's in his car, and we're on the same street, where he hurried up and parked and jumped out. And that's when he threw me against the house and like had me hemmed up on the house. And a girl that I went to school with, father, ended up coming outside and was like, unhand her right now. You leave that young girl alone. And he unhanded me. And as I'm trying to walk down the street and cross this very short street down from my stepfather's house to get to his home to get safe, he's he's pulling his car trying to hit me. And if I try to run across the street the other way, he will back up and try to hit me. So I could not cross the street. And so happened by the grace of God, my little god sister was walking down the street that day, and she was seeing what was going on, and she told him, you better not hit my sister. And she kind of like wrapped her little arm around mine and said, come on, sister. And she walked me across the street, and right when she did, I thanked her and let her go and took off running again all the way till I got to my stepfather's house, who lived right on the corner. So as I barely made it in the house long enough to just make it in and shut the door, and locking the screen door, he ended up pulling the door so hard that he popped it open while it was locked. And in that time, as at the time, my stepfather, he wasn't in a good state of mind. He was going through personal things and wasn't in a good state of mind. So I'm by myself at this point. So as I'm shielding myself, my mother out of nowhere come through the door with her hand on her waist, and she like, you know, do we have a problem? And that's when he turned around and his whole demeanor changed. He began to become calm, and he was like, you know, I just want to talk to your daughter. And she was like, no, if she don't want to talk to you, she don't want to talk to you, and she have that right. Now she told you she didn't want to deal with you anymore, and you have to respect that. Now I advise you to leave. And he left, and I never ever dated him again. And also, my past best friend experienced a lot of abuse from his friend who was a preacher as well. And also, so when a karmic cycle had hit, a few years later, the preacher that my past best friend was dating ended up passing away. And on top of it, the preacher that I was dating had went to prison for about 5 years, something with a gun possession from allegedly a girl trying to set him up. And then their bishop, who was the best friend, last I seen him, he wasn't a bishop anymore. He was actually riding a transportation bus. So, you know, when a karmic cycle hits, it just basically give what you put in at the end of the day. If you're putting in an unhealthy energy, or you're putting in deceitfulness, or you're putting in any kind of negative energy, you will get that back in return. That's why it's always nice to just live and treat people how you want to be treated, and treat people with respect at all times, and not let or allow just one form of negative behavior control your whole life. A lot of people become scared to make mistakes because of the things that was just taught for us to believe, and the things that was forced, that we were forced to believe as well, plays a big part in it, because it causes us not to make the mistakes that we are supposed to make and learn from. And that prevents us from growing. That prevents us from being happy. That prevents us from knowing what we love about ourselves, and what we enjoy about ourselves, and what we don't like about ourselves. It's the mistakes that makes us grow and to know who we are. But because we are taught and forced that we cannot make mistakes, and taught to believe that you only have to live, or you can only live this way, and we can't do things this way, it just have to firmly be a certain way, which depresses us, because then we can't become our true selves, and we begin to sabotage our happiness from the things that we are forced to believe that isn't true. And I want you guys to know, I believe these preachers had just went through things in life where they were always expected to do things the right way, and they then found out there was no right way to live life. And by that time of them catching up on their happiness, their egos also played a big part, and just, you know, played a lot in that as well. And those weren't the only preachers. There were multiple preachers that me and my past best friend had experienced, that we even seen in church, were at those parties, and they were also at gay house parties as well. And we were kind of looking at each other, and that was another thing that threw me off, because I felt that you know, a lot of them just couldn't be who they were growing up, from what they were taught to believe that they could not do, or would be condemned if they did, or punished, or whatever the case may be. That was not true at all. I want you guys to know, there is no certain way to live life. Everyone have their own story, and a lot of things that we read is someone else's story. That's someone else's journey that they went on. We all are, you know, responsible in co-creating our own journey, or co-creating our own life on our journey. Everybody have a journey, of their own. So there is no right or wrong way to live life. The only wrong way to live is to live in negativity. But to be a positive person, doing what makes you happy, creating the life that's making you happy, and just living a meaningful life that brings you abundance and purity and a lot of prosperity, you know, just doing that and helping others, just being a genuine person from the heart is going to lead you into greatness. And none of us know what is ahead of us. We don't know what lies ahead of us. We just live every day and walk into the unknown. So even in our afterlife, we don't know what's behind our afterlife, you know. So that's why it's best just to live life and put all your faith into God, and just know that God and your angels gonna guide you. Your ancestors are there. They live through us. We are a part of them, you know. So all the answers we need in life is inside ourselves, and it all starts with self-happiness and not self-sabotaging. So I hope you guys were inspired, and always remember, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to live life. The only way you should live it is in positivity, because if you live it in negativity or let your ego get in the way, you will become humbled. So I hope you guys were inspired, and thank you for watching my videos. Stay tuned for more, and please subscribe and hit the notification. Thank you.